So, welcome everybody to our regular Monday evening blab. And the title, as you'll all know, is The Secret to Selling to Your Target Market. And absolutely delighted that we've got Emma here to talk about on this particular subject, which is very, very dear to her heart. She's very, very passionate about consumer psychology. So just going to explain a little bit about who we are. So just start off by introducing myself. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Denise Willier and I'm a London-based business consultant and coach. And I've got over 25 years of experience of running businesses. I worked for 8 years as a CEO. And I did my management training at Cranfield School of Management, which is the UK's leading business school over here, and did all of the things that you would expect that a CEO would have to do, and probably more. So there's very little I haven't had to deal with when it comes to running a business, growing and scaling business, particularly if they're bootstrapped. And like I say, now I work in as a business consultant in London, and have been collaborating with Emma Darcy and Christina Jones. Christina's had a funeral to attend, so she will, I think, be joining us a little bit later on. And so I will, I think I'll wait till Christina joins us to introduce her and just crack on with introducing Emma. So Emma comes with a degree in business, an MSc in marketing, and more than 20 years experience across a variety of industries, including retail, agriculture, and logistics. And so she's, Christina's my go-to person for marketing advice. She worked for the German retail giant Lidl for a number of years. And for those of you over in the US and Canada, Lidl is probably more like a Walmart, sort of like pretty similar to Walmart, I would say. And she also served as the digital marketing advisor on the University of Limerick's MBA course. And like I said earlier, her particular interest is in consumer psychology. She's a mum to 6-year-old Olivia, who is a little pickle and loves nothing more than going out horse riding with her daughter in the rural village that she lives in Ireland. So that's sort of like by way of brief introduction to Emma. So shall I hand over to you then?
Great. Thank you, Denise, for that lovely introduction. So welcome, everyone. Great to have you all here. Thank you so much for waiting. Apologies for the long wait. Unfortunately, technology does not always work with us. However, I guess one thing we have to learn is patience, waiting for these. As Denise is saying, you know, I have a huge interest in consumer psychology, and in particular, I gained this through my master's in marketing at the University of Limerick a couple of years ago. And I suppose really, you know, I've worked in a number of industries, including the equine industry, as Denise said, agriculture, you know, retail industry, and a number of other industries, as well as working as a business consultant, marketing strategist for the last number of years as well. So I suppose really what I've noticed over the last couple of years, in particular when I'm working more one-on-one with business owners, is that there seems to be like a lack of understanding of, you know, your customers and who they are. In particular, in the online world, you hear the term ideal customer bandied around quite a bit. You know, more traditionally, you hear market segmentation, target market, those sort of terms. But essentially what you're hearing really about or listening about is really just about customers. And I suppose the first thing I'd like to flag up for everyone is that, you know, that your customers are just people. You know, they're your mums, your dads, your brothers, your sisters, you know, people that you know. So oftentimes people overthink things as well in terms of their customers and their target market. There is some research typically you need to do in terms of delving into how you can best serve them in terms of your own particular product or service. And I suppose that's the first tip I'd give this evening is, you know, really every single one of you, if you could go back and have a look and see, write down all of the benefits of your product or indeed your service, and the benefits from the viewpoint of the customer, not just your own viewpoint. Sometimes you've got to do a little bit of market research around this. And what I mean by that is, you know, literally just ask people, whether it be that you do a survey, whether you do a quiz, whether you do it online, if you do it in a shop, if you've got a shop, or if you meet people. Oftentimes you can organize just even 10, 15, 20 minutes, up to 30 minutes, where you can have a one-to-one session with somebody. This is actually called a depth interview, where you're just literally having a chat with somebody, but you're asking them key questions so that you can understand, you know, what's your customers feeling about your product and about your service. This can be very insightful because, you know, particularly as business owners, we get so caught up in the operational side of our businesses that sometimes we kind of forget about the customers, you know, which is kind of ironic because, you know, they're obviously central to our businesses. You know, so it's very important that we always reflect, whether you kind of do a little bit of market research or at least take a step back, at least a quarter at the very least. Some people would do it every month. It would really depend, you know, on how many products or services that you're actually offering. Because if you have different product offerings, you typically have different customers, right? Because you're appealing to different types of people for each product or indeed each service. There might be little tweaks. You might have an umbrella type of service, but typically, you know, each product, each service that you deliver will actually be slightly different and therefore appeal to different types of people. So just that rule back there is, you know, kind of make a list of the benefits of the features that are appealing to people and why would they buy from you. And to roll back from that again, you know, to do some market research, as I said, at least every quarter if you can. It doesn't have to be, you know, this massive thing where you kind of, employ a research company to help you. It's where you can actually just do some of it yourself. You can do things like focus groups, for example, but sometimes the depth interviews, which is literally just either phoning somebody or speaking to somebody over coffee. Naturally, if you're doing something like that you would give them something, you know, buy them the coffee, buy them the lunch, you know, be very nice to them, they're being very helpful because, you know, they're helping you to figure out, you know, added dimensions of your business that you mightn't even be aware of. I've done many of these for customers over the years. And what's really struck me is often the nuggets of gold that you get from your customers, where there might be instances where you provide a service or you give extra value that you're not even aware of. You know, so for example, you might be a consultant, you might be a coach, you might be, you know, whatever it is, and something that you don't value terribly well. Actually, your customers, that's why they come to you, that's why they adore you, that's why they keep coming back, that's why they refer you. So oftentimes as business owners, we need to go back to the customers and actually ask them, okay, what's your opinion? What do you think? One thing that I would urge you although to be very careful of is when you're asking your customers questions, to not frame the question to get a particular answer. So for example, you know, if I was to say to Denise or Denise was to say to me, you like my consulting services, don't you, Emma? You know, I mean, the obvious answer to that is she's wanting a yes, you know. So you've got to, you know, have more structured questions that you've got prepared so that they're unambiguous. In other words, that you're saying to them, what are their opinions, and give them the floor and ask them what they think. So it's very important to get that feedback. So what I'm saying to you guys is, first of all, to understand the benefits and features of your products or indeed your services. And second of all, you know, in terms of establishing that, you can write them out, obviously, because you're very aware of what you're providing, but equally that you supplement this by doing some market research, some very basic market research, by literally just asking your customers, because what that will help you to do is to develop more of what it is that you're offering. Sometimes you might find that you're not offering something that actually people really value. So this could be an extra product or an extra service that you could develop as well. So this is all hugely underrated actually as well. And what's really struck me as I've worked with different businesses is really just getting to the nuts and bolts of who people are. So what are they thinking? What, you know, literally down to what TV programs do they watch? Are they outdoorsy people? Are they introverts? Do they like reading? What types of people are they? So just ask yourself just genuine questions as to the types of customers that typically come to you for specific products and services. So this is kind of where you're really getting down to the nitty-gritty of who your customers typically are. I often find when I'm working with clients that as they go through this process of figuring out their clients, that they tend to fall into different categories. So for example, you might have really extroverted people, buying one product or service, where they're quite flamboyant, or there's a particular type of person that's attracted to specific types of products and services. So you can start to niche down and, literally write a marketing strategy for that type of customer. And this is where it's very important, is where you're making that nuanced differences between how you're marketing to different people. So for example, if you're marketing to really extroverted people, or on the other side of the coin, if you're marketing to really introverted people, obviously the language that you use, the marketing communication style that you use is going to be completely different. So for example, if you're speaking to an introverted person, saying to them that you were out in the pub last night and that you met 500 people, that might be their worst nightmare. So maybe not to use that type of language. So what I would urge you all to do is, as I said, first of all, to list the benefits and features of your products and services, do some market research around the fact of what your customers actually think, but also to start to narrow that down and actually figure out who actually are your customers, and start to figure out, are there types of people coming to you for different products and services? So like I said, are they introverted? Are they extroverted? Are they sporty? Are they, do they like to stay at home? Are they stay-at-home moms? Are they people going to work? Are they men? Do they play golf? There's all these different features that are, that you would find, or characteristics, I should say, that are kind of attracted to your different products and services, and you literally just got to write them down. And honestly, it's kind of an iterative process. So basically, it's an ongoing process whereby you just need to remind yourself of the types of people that are coming to you. I don't know, Denise, what would you find? Would you find that sometimes there's a kind of a type of person that comes to you for different products or for different services, or have you noticed kind of a type of person that's coming to you? Or are they all completely different?
I think the businesses are all very, very different, all completely different. So I wouldn't say that there's a lot of commonality in between the different businesses. A lot of them are bootstrapped. So and I seem to have a fair few businesses in turnaround at the moment that I'm working with. So that's not something that I actively went out and sought, but it just sort of seems to have happened. And I'm just sort of thinking across the owners. It's interesting. They're so different, different educational backgrounds, different. I've got a mixture of men and women.
But it's interesting, there's two commonalities there, where there's bootstrapping and turnarounds. So even the type of business, or, kind of the situations that they're in, because the thing about it is, and this is something I'd like to drive home, is no two people are alike, and the idea that there's just one ideal customer, to me, it's absolute rubbish in many ways, because, yes, you need to understand your customers and your clients. However, you hopefully have more than one. So, but I find as I work with people, that there will be commonalities there, and it's about working out what they are and how you can then best serve these people. I see here that you're writing, Denise, can you explain the difference between features and benefits? That was a question there from Kim. Okay, Kim, great question, actually. Features really are functional. So for example, it's tangible. So for example, if you have a product, it's, if it's, I'm going to be very basic here, big, small, if it's, what is it that you're actually selling? So literally, if it's a washing machine, Kim, I know you're into the horse industry, so different types of horses. Is it, a Connemara, an Irish Draft, a Dutch warm blood? Is it a thoroughbred? So literally the type like what the type is, the features of that particular animal, in the case of selling horses, the features of a particular product. If it's a service, obviously it's going to have certain features as well in terms of, you know, is it marketing that somebody's helping you with? Is it cash flow? You know, what specifically is it going to be? Benefits then are really around the benefit that this is bringing to the customer. So for example, if Denise is helping people that are bootstrapped or indeed that are looking for a turnaround, one of the things they're looking to do, the benefit of working with Denise, is she raises the revenue. You know, she's helping them to bring in more money. That's a massive benefit to people. So, you know, so by working with her, this is what she does to help people. So if you look at the benefit of somebody, I'm not sure exactly the services that you do, Kim, but, you know, for example, if you have an equestrian center, so the benefit maybe of coming to you is they get superior you know, tuition in terms of how to work with horses, maybe that you're, you know, you've got a background in it. So it's what's the specific benefit actually coming with you. I know Carl, I think is Carl still online here. Carl is another marketing specialist. She's wonderful with working with high-end clients. She specifically is able to help these high-end clients. She's also very good at helping with people with blogging. And I suppose the benefit of working with Carl is you've got somebody that's extremely qualified, that has fantastic experience, and again can help you to up level your marketing strategy in terms of moving forward in your business. So this is really kind of looking at the benefits, and again the features really are kind of in a product, they're the, you know, the actual physical features, but you can also look at services in terms of guarantees. You can like loyalty programs. You know, there's quite a long list. What I'll do is I actually do have a list. So what I'll do is after the blab, I'll put it up and you can have a look at it and see, but there's kind of a list of features and benefits just to make a difference, but I'm hoping that will help you. Kim is also asking, do you suggest surveys? Yes, I do. I think surveys are a great and quick way of finding out what people think. But I also think you've got to augment this. In other words, you've got to support this. Sometimes surveys on their own don't give the full picture. I'm a huge fan of depth interviews or focus interviews. Depth interviews are, like I was saying, was one-to-one interviews, be they on the phone or that you meet somebody for a cup of coffee. Focus groups is typically where an outside company would come in and conduct a meeting for typically about an hour and a quarter, maybe 90 minutes max. And people would talk about your service or your product. They would have specific questions, but the idea being that they would generate or stimulate a conversation around that product or service and what people think about it. So, for example, different focus groups I've helped with was a lady, a client of mine, and she had written a book. And it was actually, she's a German lady, had written a German book, but for children, for school-going children. But she'd also was translating this book into Irish. Now, she was a German national living in Ireland. So she was wanting to establish what were Irish teachers looking for, you know, because she's new to the system. She's not aware of everything that's available within the Irish system. So equally, I've worked with other people who focus groups on, even in shops, why do you go to a specific shop? What's your average spend in that particular shop per week? Why would you go there on a Sunday but not other days? And it's really interesting actually, because when one person says, well, I go there every Sunday and the reason I go there is because I go to mass or I go to church or whatever it is, and then I pop in and I say I'm going to cook the dinner and I don't, and you know, blah 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 blah. Or I go in because I meet my friends there, or I love their chicken. So there's all these reasons that maybe the shop owner is not aware of why people are coming into the shop. Like, generally speaking, obviously they've lots of products for sale, but specifically, is there something there? There was a very interesting study there, John, I think it was in a body shop a couple of years ago, where they have a franchise. So basically there was one particular store that was absolutely knocking it out of the park in terms of sales every week, and they couldn't work out why this one shop was superior week in, week out in terms of delivering on sales. And they were working it out, everything was the same product, same pricing, obviously, all this sort of thing. And eventually they got somebody to come into the store and stay in the store, like literally for about a week, to work out what it was. And it turned out that they had this really, really good salesperson, this girl that was so good. But what she was good at was good at speaking to the customers in a very conversational manner. She was like, hi, how are you? How can I help you? And what she was suggesting was that they buy something. So for example, if you go in and you buy face cream, and then she might suggest, oh, what about some lip balm? Because this lip balm is also got, I don't know, whatever butter in it or whatever ingredient. Why don't you try this for your hair? So she was suggesting kind of different products that were associated together. And so what you're looking there is upselling. So for a person that was coming in to buy one cream or maybe two types of creams, they were going out of the shop laden down literally with different products, because this girl took the time to actually talk to them. And what she was doing is, and this is terrific customer service and understanding our customers, was asking them questions. And the reason that you're figuring out your customers is you're asking them questions. What most business owners do is they make the assumption, well, my customer is like this, my customer is like that. And believe me, after years of market research, honestly, I have started market research, and I'm given, specific cases to work on, and I make these assumptions. I'm like, oh, nobody will ever buy this, or nobody will want that. And then I do the market research. I'm so surprised. I'm like, oh my gosh, people really go for X, Y, or Z. So what I say to you all is keep a very, very open mind and be aware of the nuances within your different businesses, but also to ask questions, having a conversation. Very simple. And that's what that girl was doing in that shop. And she was absolutely knocking it out of the park with them in terms of sales week in, week out. And each one of us can do this. Now, I'm missing out some of the questions there because they're flying up. Denise, is there particular questions that are coming up there? Or hang on before I nearly knock myself out here. Somebody was asking about surveys. I think Kim was asking about surveys. Yes, surveys are good, like I was saying, but if you can do depth interviews as well, I'd highly recommend both. And be very careful of the questions that you ask. Again, so what you like, typically if you have a survey, no more than 10 questions, 8 to 10 questions, because just people just get bored and they're gone. Sometimes people, they're looking for nearly what you had for breakfast, like literally your name, your address, all the rest of it. Please don't do that, because again, that bores the crap out of people and they're just gone. You literally just really are looking for basic information. Again, depending on your product or service, do you really need to know their address? Years ago, it was relevant because it indicated maybe that you're in an affluent area. Sometimes that's not always the case or representative nowadays. There again, it may be, again, you will know within your specific region, is that the case? So what do you need to understand? Do you need to understand basically, sometimes you'll put questions where, is your income, say, between 20 and 30,000, for example? So you're not looking for specifics, but a range. Then you might say, is your income like A? And then B is income 30 to 40,000, C, 50 to 60, or 40 to 50, 50 to 60, or plus. So there's certain questions like that you're wanting to understand. And why are you asking that specific question? You're wanting to understand their disposable income. Because, let's get real here in terms of, okay, you can have all these ideal customers, and if they can't afford your services, it ain't much good. Because let's face it, most of us have been window shopping, at some point in our lives, and you stood there and you wanted something, but you just physically can't afford it. So, understanding the age group that you're working with. So I often hear things like, my target market is between literally 0 to 70 in some cases, or like 20 to 50 or something. And if you're looking at a 20-year-old, you have to think logically. They're probably in college, they're living it up, their parents are probably supplementing their lifestyle. If they're 25 to 30, probably a little bit different, if they're traveling or whatnot. By the time they're 30 to 35, they may be married, they may have a child and whatever. They've got less disposable income if you're looking, so these are sweeping generalities. But typically speaking, if you're looking at different age groups, you're looking at different types of disposable income, different types of hobbies, different responsibilities. They're just basically at different points in their lives. So they're kind of basic questions that you can ask, is things like, I suppose you could ask where they live. I don't get hung up on that one personally. Their age, the range of ages that they're within, again, 20 to 25, 25 to 30, or again, how specific do you want to be? Also, in terms of their disposable income is very important in terms of understanding their income levels. What are they into outdoor hobbies and stuff? So, these are different questions that you can ask within a survey. But as I said, the depth interviews are super important. If you're doing a survey, one thing I would recommend is have at least one question where the person actually has to write out an answer. So they have to give you their opinion. Because otherwise it's yes or no, or A, B, C, D, or E, or whatever the case is. And you literally need to give at least one question that they have, and again, they're not obliged to answer all these, but you're wanting as many responses as possible. 2 would be better if you can have at least 2 questions where they're giving an opinion. And this is where you genuinely want to know, what do you think of our service? Are you happy with the quality? Is it consistent? And this is very important that you understand from all of our perspectives as business owners is the consistency of, customer service and so on and so forth. So this is where, in many ways, where you might have an established business and where you're literally just doing a review. You're just figuring out, okay, we have customers and this is a review.
Can I just jump in there a minute about the point that you made about asking at least one question where people have are asked to give you a bit more of an answer, or perhaps even 2, and that's a really, really great piece of advice there, because one of the things that you're able to tell from the answer when you look at the array of answers that you get is, well, some people will answer you really quite briefly, and other people will go into real detail and try and be very helpful. And those are people who are generally speaking, much more warmly disposed towards you, and are probably more likely to want to buy from you. So Emma's smiling there. So.
It's so true, yeah. But actually, one thing I'd be very aware of in all this is, and this is where the real academic comes out of me, is this bias. When I mean bias, I mean where you're not getting truthful answers from people, and this is in-depth interviews and equally in surveys. And this has been shown across the board. They actually build it into, if you're running a proper survey, you're actually building it in, where you're building in that at least 10% of the answers are completely biased. And what I mean by that is people are giving the answers, trying to be helpful, like Denise is saying, in their efforts to be helpful, they're giving the answer they think you want to hear. And realistically, what you're looking for is genuine answers. And that's where getting the opinion is really important, because now they have to give you like a real answer, if that makes any sense, as opposed to yes, no, the way we all do it. It's a case of, trying to give the best answer. It's not an exam, it's an opinion. And I just see Kim there, where she's saying that she's going to do the short consultation on the phone, but she's having a pre-qualifier of questions. And that's a really good thing to do as well, because you're not, I suppose this is the other side of it. And sometimes people go down the rabbit hole of, oh my God, I spent like 3 weeks on the phone talking to every customer they've ever met for the last 10 years. And that is not a good use of your time, I would say. If you're looking at numbers, because this is another question I get asked frequently, and again, this is about understanding your customers, consumer psychology. So you're basically asking lots of questions. These are why you're doing it, to understand, what are your customers wanting. But essentially, you're wanting that, that you're getting, all the questions that you want answered. And I've lost my train of thought there. Oh my goodness. But what was it? Oh yeah, sorry, it'll come back to me. This is where you're thinking 4 things at once, and it's gone out of my head there. But pre-qualified questions are really good, and I'd highly recommend that. And for sure that, don't go off asking too many people, because definitely, what I was trying to make was, the point I was trying to make was, if you have had, it's usually 10% of a population. So, for example, in Ireland, we've had an election recently. I don't know if there's anybody from Ireland actually here on the call at the moment, but which hasn't gone very well, by the way. But anyways, so that you have all these polls, right? And you can see that in the States as well, where you've got all these polls. But in Ireland, the population is 4.5 million. And so, for example, if you look at your customers, how many customers can you potentially have? So, for example, if you are in the baby industry or the mom baby industry, in Ireland, I was researching it, say, 3 years ago, and there was 72,000 births per year. So your target market is the 72,000 mums. But ideally, you're wanting to interview potentially 10% of those, which obviously is a large amount of people. So can you logically do that? In that case, probably not. I suppose what I would urge people to do is, where you have a large section of society, or, and typically we don't have that many customers, but you're looking at a good 10%. That's a good kind of rule of thumb. So, for example, if you have 5,000 on your email list, you're looking to interview potentially 500, if you can. And I suppose the difficulty can be, and I'm sure if anybody's ever done a survey, put one out there, getting people to fill them in, dear God, it's incredibly difficult. So that can be a challenge in and of itself. So you can have companies who send out 160,000 or 200,000 surveys, and they're doing quite well if they get at least 10% of those back filled. Very well. And usually there's like a carrot, okay, they're in a competition, or they get something if they do it in terms of a bonus or something like that as well. So they're just different things to look at. It's not always possible, obviously, to cover large populations or even 10% of them. But what I'm saying to you is the more people, obviously, particularly surveys, because they're just filling them out. You can use surveymonkey.com. So surveymonkey.com. There's a free version. It's a terrific service. And what it does, it gives you stats as well, which means that you don't have to figure out kind of all the ins and outs of, okay, well, what does this mean? Because the other thing is, you know, when you run the survey and then you look at the results, it's like, what does it mean? And what do I do now going forward? So, for example, you might find that you're falling down in customer service. So obviously that's something that you need to look at. You might find that you're brilliant in customer service, that maybe people feel like there's something missing. It could be that they want coffee. Like, for example, the horse riding. Just the reason I think of that is my daughter goes to horse riding every week and lessons, and it's freezing cold for the mother standing there or watching them. And I keep saying to the guy, please get a coffee machine, because, you know, you're potentially losing out in revenue, right? Because there's all these moms there every week, and if you'd Wi-Fi, I probably wouldn't leave. You know, so these are extras that you can provide. And I suppose if you're looking at vending machines and whatnot, in his case, it could actually be extra income in terms of, you know, the volume of people coming through his place, and where he's providing an extra service that will keep people there, make him money. So not just the 20 euros that he charges per hour for the riding lesson, but maybe he can make €1 per mother, and how many mothers are coming every week, and and all the rest of it. Yeah, so I see Carl is going there. Thanks, Carl, for joining us. I think you've been showing the love quite a bit there, so thank you so much for that. And Carl has been great. She's doing loads of Facebook Live. If anybody's on Facebook Live, she's going great in that. Highly recommend using it. I've used it a couple of times myself. Sans makeup, which is dreadful, but however, one must get out there. Is there any other questions coming out that I seem to have missed, Denise, or something that people have been asking or want to know? I suppose something I haven't used as examples yet, but is there anything that's jumping out to you, Denise?
What I want to just do is double check the question about features and benefits, because I know that people really get themselves in a bit of a twist about that one. Mm-hmm. So just want to make sure that, Kim, you've kind of felt that you've got that one buttoned down okay. And then just to say, because we've got a few new people joining us, brilliant, that's awesome. We've got a few new people joining us. So if you want to ask a question of Emma, then just type / then Q, and then whatever your question is, and then that will flag the question up on the left-hand side of the screen for us. So it's really, really obvious that you have asked a question. And also, if you want to share the love for Emma and what she's sharing, which I can see that you've been doing like crazy anyway, is those two little teeny hands in the right-hand corner of Emma's screen. If you want to just click on those, then that's a brilliant way of showing your appreciation for what she's sharing. So I can see that Kim's doing that away there.
Thank you
for you now.
So yeah, no. I suppose a couple of things I'd like to bring up as well is, obviously, you know, I'm launching a course on target market consumer psychology, and it can seem to be very convoluted. Perhaps I'm making it so, I'm not sure. But I suppose really what I'm trying to get across to people is, you know, it really is super important that you understand your customers. I think people get that. It's really just figuring out how to do it. A couple of things you could do if you're, you know, particularly if you're starting out and you don't have any customers, what do you do? So if you're in a particular industry, go online onto Amazon, for example, research books in that area and look at the reviews of those books, and specific topics can be a really good thing to do. Also, you can go on to Google and you can put in, say, I don't know, give a topic, whatever the topic is, and then in URL, so IN URL, and then like semicolon, and then on, say, for instance, you're looking for a blog post on it, or you're looking for an article on it, or whatever the case is. That's a good way of finding different articles and stuff. So sometimes you have to think beyond what's there. Also be aware of when you're doing, like, say, general market research, and market research sounds really horrible, but actually you're just figuring out your customers. And there's tons of information out there, believe me. One of the biggest sources of information is government websites. As boring as the government are, in fairness, they do due diligence in every single country, whereby, you know, and even actually tonight or yesterday, we have a census in Ireland, you know, where we have to say where we live and how much you earn and da, da, da. So every year, I think it's every 4 years or something like that, and you know, most countries would do that. So that all goes back to a central website that is available for free to everybody here in every country. And so what I would suggest to you, if anyone's in Ireland, it's cso.ie, and the one for the UK eludes me right now. I don't know if you can think of it, Denise. But they're government websites, and literally it'll give you the population. It'll break it down into who's going to school, who's not going to school, who is in specific areas, kind of average salaries, the types of houses, as in the value of houses in particular areas. It gets really, really in depth, and you can get loads of it. It's called secondary research. Primary research is where you're physically asking questions, where you're meeting the people, or you're asked, like sending out surveys. That's where you're getting information directly from the client. Secondary information is tons of stuff that's there already. One word of caution: Wikipedia does not in any form or context become market research in any way. If any of you have been to university, I think you understand that Wikipedia, any one of us can upload any type of information onto Wikipedia. It's a fantastic resource, don't get me wrong. However, it is not validated. None of it is. Therefore, you have to realize, if you're doing your market research on Wikipedia, and I have been to presentations where I've had speakers there and they quote Wikipedia, and I nearly fall off the chair every time. Because you have to go to really good sources like government websites. If you're in the tourist industry, for example, here in Ireland, I have done some consultancy work, and I'm so stunned because there's like 3 really good websites. There's one, itic.com, and it gives all of the tourist information all around Europe and all around the States, coming into Ireland and the UK and whatnot, and it is there. It is gold. Like, genuinely speaking, if you're in the hotel industry, if you're in the B&B industry, if you're anything got to do with the tourist industry, good, bad, or indifferent, there's this monumental document that has, and it's the most up-to-date information. And I go to people all the time, and they have absolutely no clue that it's there. And what does it do for them? For example, 10 years ago, I was able to tell people that walking holidays are amazing, and that the Germans, in particular in the UK, it's been really popular. In Ireland, they were like, holy God, why would you pay for going for a walk? They couldn't understand this at all, you know. My father, I remember, nearly fell off his chair when I said this is going to be the next big thing. And it is. It's one of the primary reasons people actually come to Ireland today, is because for walking holidays. And it wasn't me making it up. It's literally in the document. They've done the research. They've said the football. So this is where there's massive amount of information basically on government websites. Also, if you're in specific industries, there will be journals like the Marketing Journal, there'll be management, there'll be accounting, there'll be, if you're in the equine industry, there will be journals, there will be research that is already done for you and that you don't need to figure it out. So please use these because they're wonderful. I can see Kim is saying forums, Facebook groups can be good too. Yes, words that people are saying. That's something that I have not alluded to tonight. Thank you, Kim, for reminding me. The language that people are using is so important to understand. So, for example, the language that I'm using can be totally different to what my clients use. And in particular, when I speak like marketing jargon, which sounds like absolute rubbish to some people, like, so if you use words like, now I'm hoping everybody here gets it, like PicMonkey, MailChimp, like these random like tech words, it's like, what the heck are they to the normal person? They don't mean anything. And the same if you're in the horse industry. I know Kim is sending a lot of the love there. She's in the horse industry. I have worked in the horse industry in a significant level in racing and different things. And you know, we've all done this. If you're in golf, if you're in tennis, if you know, specific sports that you would play, there is a certain accepted sort of language within that sport, within that industry, that everybody within it understands, however nobody else does. So there's like in-house jokes and stuff. So it's very important that you understand your customer's language. So for example, I've often run workshops, particularly around social media or about marketing strategy. And the questions I get back from people often stun me. You know, like for example, I did a webinar there a while back and somebody asked me, what is engagement? So they actually didn't understand what engagement was on social media. So I actually had to explain that. But I was stunned because I assumed, and I think as business owners, often we assume that people know what we mean. So the language that people use, be it, as Kim says, in forums, on Facebook, if you're talking to them on an interview level, if you use surveys, the words that they use are the words you should speak back to them. So I'll say that again. So the language that your customers or clients are using, you must speak back to them. Why? Because they feel you understand them. If somebody feels you understand them, they're more likely to want to work with you. I used to do a lot of sales. I worked as an area sales manager, and one of the guys I worked with was, you know, he used to say this thing, people like those like them. So in other words, we tend to gravitate towards those like us, who understand us, who have a similar type of language, a similar type of vocabulary, because there's a sense of knowing, because, you know, it's really a reflection of ourselves in many ways. So what I'm saying is you need to understand the language of your customers and put that in your marketing materials. If you're sending out an email, if you're writing on Facebook, if you are sending a letter, if anybody sends letters anymore, if you know, putting a brochure together, if you're using language on your website, that's the type of language you should use. So like, for example, if you're a garage and you have a lot of female owners of cars coming into you, your language may be different slightly than, say, male people coming in. Okay, I'm being very sexist there, but you know, so these are just things that you need to understand. But the language, absolutely, Kim, thank you for the reminder there, is really, really important that you understand. I'm not sure what they mean by somebody, WGP7110. Yes, not all content you read is Aquitaine. Not sure what that means, actually. So Kim is saying, it's like when I say move the 4 quarters. Some don't understand because their wording is, how do I move the front legs over for shoulder over, or shoulder over? Yes, indeed. Yeah, so sometimes, and again, be very aware, you know, and I'm sure, Denise, you must find it sometimes, do you, with kind of some of the finance, you know, kind of language that people kind of get it, but maybe don't really, and often are afraid, not afraid, but don't want to seem silly or don't like to seem that they don't know. That's the biggest thing. They won't tell you they don't know. So you're blissfully unaware that you were talking maybe for an hour, hopefully not that long, but even 5 minutes. And, you know, it's where they might have actually missed the central point that you're making. You know, particularly in the service industry, it's incredibly important that people understand. And actually, Kim, I'll use a good example. I had a farrier in there 3 weeks ago to do a pony, and the pony has laminitis. So for anybody not familiar, laminitis is a disease in the foot of horses, and a very basic description. And once they get it, it's recurring, and you know, you have to manage it. And typically, what you've got to do is severely limit, in some cases, the amount of particularly fresh grass that the horses would get, and particularly ponies get it. And I suppose within, say, the horse community, well, in Ireland anyway, I don't know, Kim, if he explains this, you know, he was, say, for instance, this farrier who shoes horses, if you're not sure, or blacksmith, some people would call them. He went into a family who had bought a pony for their daughter. The pony had laminitis, but the family were not of a horsey background. And he used the words, quote unquote, starve the pony. But what he meant was, don't overfeed it. But that was the underlying message. But they took him literally, quite literally, and put him on the smallest patch of ground you've ever seen in your life. And he just said, thank God he came back, I don't know, 2.5 weeks later to check on the horse, and they, you know, bones were starting to nearly peep out. And he got such a shock because he realized that the language that he was using was being interpreted in a way that he did not mean. But yet, if you took the literal meaning of what he was saying, like starve your horse, I mean, in fairness, if somebody says that to you, you know, I suppose you would reluctantly do it. However, you're taking the advice of an expert. And this is where language, can get messed up. So be very aware of how you might think you're being very direct, but how there might be, and you think you're giving an underlying message, but you may not be. And we all have done it, I'm sure, at different times. That's an extreme example. But just to be aware that the messages that we're saying, that it's important that we have that language and to use the language. So when people say to me, for example, what do you do? Marketing strategist. Like, so my family just look at me, what the heck does that mean? So I help people too. So if you use words like that, I help people to do, I teach people too. And so the idea being that you help them, you teach them, you work with them, whatever it is, to do something. So, and everyone, that's the benefit, of working with somebody. So there are kind of sentences you can use to do that. And Kim is saying never assume. So, I mean, that's really, really good advice, Kim. Thank you there. And, very, very important that the language. So a couple of things there just to refresh again is that you're looking at the benefits of what you're doing for your product or service for your customers. You're doing some market research. That can consist of surveys, it can consist of focus groups or depth interviews, which is literally just one-to-one interviews, cup of coffee or over the phone, whatever works best. Please thank them. Please give them a cup of coffee or buy them lunch or whatever the case is. But essentially you're looking for feedback, genuine feedback, not you love our company type of feedback. Typically as well, if you're doing a depth interview in particular, if you can record the session. This works wonders because, of course, it's incredibly hard to remember everything. So I would literally write a transcript of exactly what they've said. I did this in particular last year and the year before, where I interviewed, was it 8 women the year before and 10 women last year. I work with a lot of ladies, and in particular, just worked out like that. And the language that they were using was words like freedom. They wanted to be able to work with their families and have a good lifestyle balance and all that sort of stuff. So what was important to them? And this is where it goes back to, do you understand your customers? Where are they today in their lives? Not just financially speaking, but up here as well in terms of their health, their mindset. What are they expecting? What benefits can you deliver? So for example, if somebody's working with Denise, it's a case of she's helping them to move their business forward. If it's moving it from a bootstrap business to a very successful, lucrative business. It's not to say that you couldn't do it, but it might take you 10 years or 5 years or whatever the case is. But maybe by working with somebody like Denise, the benefit being that you can get there faster. So these are just looking at how, the what you actually do, but more significantly, what benefit is it to the customer? And also to look at your competitors as well in terms of, what competitors do you have there? And realistically look at that. A simple SWOT analysis can work really well. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I'm sure many of you have heard of that. And just really to, be aware of at least 3 competitors and why are people going to them? What's good about them? And literally think back and look at your market research to be very true to yourself and say, well, why are they not coming to you? And otherwise, why are people coming to you? So just to be very true and see, it's not that you want to be poaching clients or anything like that, but you really want to, I suppose, to give the best that you can. And if you're falling down anywhere, to be very aware of that and to do something about it and to readdress that. I'm sorry, I don't know that person's name, WGP. What's your name? You might tell me. I don't want to refer to you like that. Many people assume, very true. And the best advice is to take information in strides. And if you don't fully understand, then research on it. That's absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely. And ask people. The best thing you can do is constantly ask questions. If you ever notice, actually, if you go to hairdressers, for example, they're terrific at chatting to people and getting feedback. How are you? How's your day? What are you doing for the weekend? And they're getting a sense of the person, the type of maybe hairstyle that they would like. Where are they going? If you're going to the races, it's going to be different hairstyle, than if you're going to a rave. There's completely ends of the scale. So it's about working with the client, working with the customers, understanding who they are, where they want to go. I've worked significantly with a lot of businesses in the wedding industry, as it's happened. Also, I suppose I wrote some market research, or I wrote my thesis around it. And one of the things which I believe is key is to think of your customer's imagination. So when they come to you, they're imagining having worked with you if it's service, and what's the benefit to them? What will they have achieved? What transformation will they have achieved by working with you? So if you're working with them for 8 months, you're working with them for a year, in the customer's mind, in the client's mind, what they're visualizing is the end, that they've achieved what it is they want to achieve. So it's very important in your marketing communications, or when you're speaking to them, and most specifically when you're closing a sale, that you're giving them that vision with their language, you know. And again, even with product, you can see car sales people do it really well, where, you know, they're saying things like, you can see yourself driving in the BMW down an open road, you know, if it's a soft top or something. You can see yourself rocking up to your friend's wedding next week in this Audi A6 or something. They'll be really impressed. It's got leather interior. It's got ABS brakes, you're hoping. You know, it does this, you know, you can tell I'm not a car person. You know, it has all these extras. And what they're doing is nearly giving the characteristics of the car to the person. And again, this kind of goes back to self-identity. And if you understand your customers, you'll understand where they want to be and to help them to achieve that. So if you look at the weddings, for example, like I was just saying, when I worked in a wedding shop briefly while I was in university. And one of the things I noticed was the brides would come in and some brides wanted an elegant, simple dress. That because in their mind, they were walking up the aisle in that elegant, simple dress. Now, for any of the ladies here, you might recognize that when you go to buy dresses and you stand in the window and you look at them, they look beautiful. And I don't know if anyone else has found this, you try it on, you go, oh dear God, what happened? It doesn't remotely look like I thought it would in the magazine, or indeed like you saw on the mannequin. So what happens, particularly in the case of a wedding, where somebody really visualized they were going to look amazing in a particular style of dress, and then it just does not suit. So I suppose what I noticed happened is sometimes the opposite dress, like the really fancy one, would really then be beautiful on them. But it took a while for the bride to come around to that idea. Now, on the surface of that, they should be like, wow, this is brilliant, I love this dress. But actually they struggled with that because in their mind, they were going up the aisle as an elegant bride, whereas now they were going with the whole 9 yards and the flounces and whatnot, or vice versa. So this is where you've got to put it in into the mind of the consumer. And I said, if you listen to car salespeople, they're the best. Sorry?
You're just cutting out there, Emma, just going a little bit garbled. Can you just repeat what you just said?
Oh gosh, if I can remember. Can you all hear me now?
Yeah, you're back loud now.
Okay, great. What I was saying is, if you look at, or listen rather, to car salespeople, they're super at putting in the mind of the customer how they're going to be, you know, by buying a particular car. It's well worth actually going and sitting at a car dealership for a day and listening to the conversations that are going on. And you'll probably find that they repeat quite a lot of the stuff. One of the things you'll notice as well is that they're saying everything in a conversational tone. You know, so if anyone's ever learned a sales script, it comes across awful, you know, because it's like, my name is Emma and I'm going to do whatever. And it's like, oh my God, I've got a robot, run, is what the customer is thinking. So it's about being conversational and work and like asking people questions. So in a salesperson, like a car sales rep, where they're saying, you know what? Oh, you play camogie. Sorry, that's an Irish. You might understand. You play football. You go horse riding. You go swimming. You know. Oh wow, I was at. You know, and I know salespeople that were not into sport, good, bad, or indifferent, but they would look at the results of every tennis match, every rugby match, every soccer match, so that when they would meet their customers for the week, they were able to say, "Did you see whatever team play?" And they never saw anything, but they would do that. Why? Because that's what appeals to their customers. Why would they do that? Because if you speak to a customer and you say to them, you love Bayern Munich or you love whatever, say, soccer team. For the American listeners, if you're looking at American football and there is different teams and you support a specific team, if the salesperson is like, oh, I love that team and I think they're this, or did you see the opposing team? They were crap. And the person listening to them is like, wow, this person has the same, like, and this is very subliminal, it's subconscious. You know, they're the same as me. You know, they understand me because they support the same team. Now, oftentimes sometimes people, like salespeople, will do it naturally. Others learn this skill. is where they're literally, in a way, they're getting the person to trust them by saying they're like them, you know, by saying they're into tennis. I know Denise is massively into tennis. You could have her there, you know, you might be able to negotiate the old price there if you start kind of having a great discussion about Federer or something like that. There's a tip, guys, you know, if you're wanting to get Denise on price, start talking, you know, start bamboozling her with tennis and all the rest of it, and she might inadvertently give you 50% off without realizing, because she's so into tennis. She's going to start talking about that, and in a way she nearly forgets, maybe, well, I'm not saying you do, Denise, but this is just an example where somebody is massively into sport or massively into something, and you're having a chat and a conversation, but you're weaving that conversation into a sales pitch. You're weaving it into buying something. And so because the thing is, right, what you've all got to consider is we get over 3,000 marketing advertising messages thrown at us every single day. Right? So how do we filter that out? How do we decide what's important? So if you're the salesperson, you're kind of diverting the person's attention away from the, because most people, what they're doing is, I'm not buying from you. Because if you meet anybody in a sales situation, their immediate thing, you know, we all have this kind of, I suppose, barrier or protection is, instead of, because you're not going to go and buy everything, are you? You can't. Most people have limited funds, so you can't. So you've got to decide, what are you going to spend your disposable income on? However, if you meet this lovely, I don't know, I'm going to say the car salesperson again and say, I'm Denise, or I'm into the horses, and he starts talking about horses, and I kind of get diverted, you know, instead of saying in my head, I'm not going to spend 50 grand in this car, I'm like thinking about horses, and I get diverted a bit. And then he's like, oh, it's a beautiful car and leather interior and this, and I'm kind of getting swayed because I'm starting to like this person, and I'm, you know, and he's weaving this whole conversation. Do people get what I'm saying? Like it's really a skill.
Yeah.
And there's some wonderful people out there that do it naturally. And then for the rest of us, like myself, you've got to learn the skill. And what I sometimes found is when I was selling, we'll say on a regular basis, where I had to sell to make a living, if you like, it can become overwhelming. And there's kind of, how would you say, there's a pressure on you, particularly if you don't have a base salary. And for anyone that's ever worked in this, it can be hard, because you're going in and and if you've ever met a salesperson, it's like you're getting their last dying breath, because, you know, they're like really focused on getting that money out of you, and you feel like they're going to shake you and rattle the money out of you nearly. And but if you meet this other salesperson who's very relaxed and laid back and is talking about tennis or horses and weaving the whole conversation into leather interiors, and wow, you look amazing, and if you buy this dress, you'll be at the races, and you know, all the guys will fall for you, and you know, whatever the conversation is, what they're doing is they're weaving your life into what they're selling, and that what they're selling is going to now become part of what you're going to do going forward. So go back to the imagination thing. We all imagine in the future where we would like to be. So if you're buying a house, you're imagining yourself in the house. If you're buying Denise's services, if you're buying my services, you're imagining being better off in your business, the benefit being down the road. That's what you're going to do. You're going to have more money in your bank account. My job is to help you to understand that you will. But the question is, you know, so it's all about weaving that conversation. So, you know, there's, you know, and this all goes back to initially understanding your customers. You understand them on a wide basis. Who are they? Are they interested in horses? Are they interested in tennis? Are they interested in football? Are they interested in soccer? Do they have 50,000 year income? Do they not? Do they have 20,000? Do they have 3 children? Do they have 2 children? Are they 20 or are they 40? What do they believe in? What, you know, so you've all this type of information floating around, and it's up to you as the business owner either to convert them through on a one-to-one basis or in a shop, or indeed whereby you are doing it. And this is the hard part if you're doing it online. So anybody in the online space, it can be quite hard, because how can you be personable? It's inherently difficult, isn't it? Because you've just got this website. So you guys are listening to us now, right? So you can get a sense of who we are. Do you hate me? Do you like me? Maybe you do, maybe you don't, who knows? However, I am me. But I can present myself in a particular way online. I can present myself that my hair is straight, for example. It's not, as you can see. But I can present myself in a particular way that you can like me or not in that way that I present myself. So you may not get to know me. In many ways, you get to know a false sense of who people are in the online world. However, people are positioning themselves for that. So they're positioning themselves, say, into a high-end market or to a mid-market or into a low-end market, depending on what they're doing or what they're selling. They're doing it specifically. for a reason, typically. But I suppose the point being that, you know, it's harder for people to make a decision based on just looking at websites. And this is where you go back to, say, social media and whatnot, is where there's that two-way conversation. And there's more a sense of who you are by what you post on Facebook, more a sense of who you are by what you post on Twitter, on Snapchat is the latest up and coming thing. If you are in B2B, it's more about going onto your LinkedIn account and whatnot and figuring out who you are on a professional level. So these are all the background information that support what you are going to do in your marketing communications to help you convert into sales. I hope I'm making sense. Am I, Denise?
You are. You're making perfect sense there, Emma. Absolutely.
So any questions, anything else people would like to add or ask? Because there's a lot covered there. And I see people are jumping off there. So it's getting quite late at 10:30. So I'm just wondering if people have questions. Hi, Kelly Bader. I might probably pronounce that incorrectly. Lovely to have you here. And Mohammed, lovely to have you guys here. Just wondering, we're talking about consumer psychology. Any questions, please jump in there. Kim, Kevin, thank you. Good stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing my website, Denise. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just going to share it again for you.
Thank you. Kevin was saying something there. People buy people, not products. That's a great saying. Thank you for saying that. There's a new thing you can kind of see bandied around online. Because you see B2B, business to business, business to consumer, and then you've got P2P, which is people to people. And that's really important. And I suppose that's to reiterate here, we're selling to people. You're selling to your brother, your mother, you know, potentially speaking, or somebody's mother, brother, sister, you know, so on and so forth, husband, wife. And this is where we've got to understand the people. Kim is going to jump off. She's got super fixed. Going to your house, Kim. Thank you for being so helpful in the chat, and Kevin as well. There's a number of you being really, really great in the chat tonight. Loving that. Please feel free to contact us in any way if you would like to know more. You have Denise's website there and my own. We do a blab every Monday night at 9 p.m. GMT time, which is 4 p.m. EST time. So Cindy, goodness me, I'm going mad today. Sandy, with so much content rolling around out there these days, it's more important to speak clearly to our market. Yes, indeed. That was the point I was trying to make, but probably not very successfully, Sandy. Thanks for making sense of brand targeting. Oh, you're most welcome. Absolutely. And that's a really good point. Thank you, Sandy, for making that. You know, and this is where there's so much content out there. My goodness, books, podcasts, websites, dear God, webinars. It's like we're just getting a barrage of information. So how do you decide who to go with? You know, if you're going for an accountant, if you're going for a plumber, if you're buying a new house, there's just so much choice. And how do you make that right choice for you? And with content marketing, obviously, in particular, I know Sandy has done a terrific video for her website, and it looks amazing. I saw 2.4 thousand views, I think I saw on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken, Sandy.
Is that from the video that Sandy posted yesterday?
Yeah, well, that's what I saw today, unless my eyes are deceiving me. Yeah, absolutely.
Is that true? 2,400 in just
2.4K.
hours?
I saw it on Facebook. Check your Facebook. And that was earlier.
Wow.
Actually, that was much earlier today. So, and for anybody that doesn't know, Sandy did this terrific video featuring her products. And, you know, it's difficult because you've got to put yourself out there. For all of us, like even sitting here, you know, you've got to put yourself out there. And she did amazing. And I was just looking at it earlier just to see how it was doing. And I'm pretty sure it said 2.4 thousand people saw it, which that was in 24 hours.
I'm just going in and having
Hopefully my eyes are deceiving me, because I was like, wow, well done. So this is where she's standing out from the crowd because she's doing something different. And for any of you out there, we're just checking, you know, if you're appealing to your target market, if you're looking to stand out from the crowd, this is where you do. Yes?
Oh, Emma, I'm just going to interrupt you there because I've just got it up, and it's 3,400 views in less than 24 hours.
Sandy. Well done.
Or it's just over 24 hours. 3,400 views. I bet you're really glad you ironed those sheets.
Sandy, could you share the video there, please, if you don't mind? We can get it up to 4,000 from Blab. If I go to try and share, the whole thing might crash on me, so let's not try that. So if you could share, Sandy or Denise, maybe if one of you could share the video just to show people. I suppose what I'm a big fan of, and Denise and them are probably sick of me saying it, is if everyone else is going left, go right. So Sandy's after creating a new piece of content where she features herself and her products, which are sheets in this case. And she did an absolutely fantastic video, really sexy and really appealing to people, but very natural. And, you know, it's absolutely beautiful, actually, a really stunning piece of work. Sandy, congratulations on it. And what she's doing is she's putting on a sale right now. And there you can go and have a look at her Facebook and look at her little video and see what you guys think of it. And, you know, oh, thank you for saying that's a wonderful Blab. I can't think of your name. I'm really bad. Can you tell us your name? Walter.
We also just to really encourage you to share Sandy's video as well, you know, is to like it. And I know it put Sandy right outside her comfort zone when she made it, and then she's probably really thanking us for now promoting it here, but we've just got to get it way past that 4,000 mark. So if you could share it, that would be really awesome as well. So hopefully that link there is working.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And the Office HQ, you've been here from the start. Thank you so much for staying for so long, actually, because this is quite a long Blab. Yeah, so Jonathan, welcome. We're probably wrapping up soon enough, but we've just shared a lovely video there. If you'd like to go and share it some more for one of the attendees in the chat, the Facebook link there. So Sandy, congratulations on that video.
Yeah, perfect example of marketing your target customer. Absolutely. Is that video, isn't it?
Actually, yeah, it's a perfect example, because Sandy, what she's doing is she has a website, sinandlinen.com, and basically she has some very sexy bed linen that she has for sale. You know, there's kind of a mixture of, I think, burlesque, and I can't even think of all the names now because my brain is going dead, with lots of different types of bed linen for sale. And obviously the nature of bed linen, people are thinking of not just sleeping, would you believe? So she's created a really sexy but lovely video that features her product, but has a bit of fun in it as well. And this is where it's very appealing to people. And again, if you listen to what I was just talking about, is imagination. So when people are looking at buying her product, they're imagining themselves on those sheets and they're having a good time, and they're being happy like Sandy is in that video. And that's really what this is about putting people where they want to be, show the transformation. Transformation is huge, guys. If you've followed Forbes, if you've followed Harvard Business Review or any of those periodicals for the last 5 years, that's what people are looking for across the board. If they're looking for transformation, some of them it's through buying a car, some of them it's hiring Denise to help them, you know, put their revenue through the roof in terms of getting help. For myself, obviously, it's been marketing strategy and to help people move their businesses forward in terms of marketing communications. For Sandy in the chat, it's about, you know, that she's selling really wonderful bed linen that features, you know, and appeals to different types of people. And this, what we're all doing is transformation on different levels with different products and with different services. And if you can get that across to your customers in a great way that they can understand with their language through your market research, Bob is your uncle, as they say here.
I just want to come in there and throw out a challenge for Sandy, which is to go back into that post and to edit the blurb that you've written so that it includes a URL link to your website, and you know, just like, you know, 1 or 2 sentences, just explaining what you do, but with a link through to your sale on your website. And then I want you to boost that post, because I reckon if it's got 3.4 thousand views already, that you can get that video going a bit viral and get some more of your linen flying off the shelves. So that's my challenge to you, is to go back in and change that post and see if you can get it to go viral, because I think you probably can, and I think you can get a heck of a lot more sales as a result of it. So do you think, are you with me on that challenge?
Absolutely.
there, Emma?
I mean, I think, it's shared into different groups. Probably I'll go into is it Adspresso or your Power Editor?
Oh.
It hasn't been approved by Facebook. Well, you know what? The people are approving it.
Okay, go in and change the text on it, and make sure it's got the URL, because you want people going straight through to your URL if you can possibly encourage it. So, gosh, Facebook is so puritanical, isn't it? Yes, do. Yeah, and even I'm saying Facebook's puritanical. So, are we? Have you shared everything that you wanted to share?
I could be here all night
today,
on this
Emma.
topic, so I won't bore the crap out of everyone for much longer. So I've kind of shared probably the main points, really. I suppose I'd like to thank everyone for being here again at 9 p.m. our regular slot. Unfortunately, Christina couldn't be here; she's at a funeral. And yeah, so thank you to everyone. Thank you for all being so great in the chat and for contributing to the conversation. Our blabs are successful because of you guys, so thank you for that. So really back to Denise, and if anyone has any last minute questions to ask, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, so I've popped in the chat several times the website, Emma's website, so you can connect with Emma there. I've also popped my own website in the chat too. What I'm just going to share with you now is a link to a blab that I'm going to be running tomorrow, where I've got Mark Schaefer, who is one of the keynote speakers at Social Media Marketing World, who is going to be talking to us live and giving us the inside scoop on what's going on in San Diego. So I'm going to pop that link into the chat. That's at 9:45 Pacific time, and that's 12:45 East Coast and 5:45 here in the UK. So if you're able to join us for that blab there with Mark Schaefer, that would be phenomenal, because he's one of the top. It's certainly like such a phenomenal coup, because he's one of the top marketing kind of consultants in the world. And then we're going to be back next Monday evening at 9 o'clock, and we're going to be talking about the different changes that Facebook has been making to the platform, and in particular the announcements that they made at their conference last week as well. So we will have the link up very, very shortly for that one. And so that'll be up on Blab very, very soon. So we hope that you will be able to join us for that. So that's 9 o'clock next Monday evening. So that's 9 o'clock GMT. So that is 1 o'clock over on West Coast US, and 4 o'clock in the afternoon on the East Coast. And if you can't make that blab, then we're here every Monday evening in any event, talking about a variety of business and marketing related subjects. So just before we say a final goodbye, if any of you would like to show your appreciation for Emma for giving up her time this evening and sharing her wealth of knowledge, just hit those little that little pair of hands there in the bottom right hand corner of the screen and show some love and appreciation. That would be awesome. And just say a very, very big thank you to you, Emma, and to everybody who has turned up to join us as well. Really, really appreciate you coming and showing your support. Hope you've got lots of great golden nuggets from that, and some actionable tips that you can take away and apply to your business. So any final comments before I shut down this blab?
Watch
Emma?
the replay. Watch the replay. Have a great evening, everyone.
Watch the replay.
Make sure you use action is key.
Yeah,
action is key in this. Don't just listen to this stuff. Actually, do something, implement it. Would be my key you know, I suppose, bit of advice. There's some stuff there that, you know, you probably heard of before, but maybe just to include it in what you're doing in your business, because it does have results. So really, really like to thank you all. And Kevin says he wants to talk to me sometime. Absolutely no problem at all. I was going to say no point. My brain really is going dead. Kevin, no problem at all. And, you know, I'd like to thank everyone, you know, for, you know, listening in tonight, and thank you for supporting us.
Brilliant. So have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you on one of our blabs coming up soon. Okay then, bye.